When I first started playing, I had no idea how powerful shield attachments could be. I kept getting stuck with useless ones and missing out on the full potential of the game. But now, after making this video, I've reached the ultimate level of shield attachment mastery, and I wish I had known this sooner. If you don't want to be asking yourself, why didn't I know this earlier? Stick with me and the Rank Top channel till the very end. Number 13, Rond of Sparta. The lowest rank shield attachment in the game is Rond of Sparta. This Rond cannot be leveled up, which means it stays at level 1 from the start of the game until the end. The second problem is that it has no perk or unique ability at all. Because of these two issues, you can say it's basically a useless piece of metal that does absolutely nothing for you. I won't waste more time on it, so let's move on to the next rank on the list. Number 12, Rond of Volition. This item can be leveled up, but just like the previous Rond, it has a big problem. It has no perk or unique ability. So far, you might not feel how important perks really are, but if you stay with me until the end of the video, you'll see how a good perk can make a huge difference and completely change your playstyle. Number 11, Rond of Affliction. Now we finally get to the first Rond on the list that actually has a perk. But even with a perk, this Rond still ranks low, because its perk is not very valuable. The perk description says that after enemies are fully affected by an element, hitting them with your shield will trigger an elemental explosion. So why isn't this perk that good? First of all, fully applying an element to enemies is not easy. And even if you manage to do it, once you hit them with your shield and the explosion happens, the elemental effect is completely removed from the enemy, which is a bad thing. For example, imagine you apply poison to an enemy. After you hit them with your shield, the poison effect is removed very quickly. That means you lose a great opportunity to keep damaging the enemy while they are poisoned. Or imagine you finally set an enemy on fire. Right at the moment when the enemy is losing health because of the fire, triggering this perk and hitting them with your shield removes the fire effect completely. In practice, this perk doesn't help your combat at all. In fact, it often gets in your way. Yes, the elemental explosion does deal some damage, but the damage is so small that, in my opinion, it's not worth using in fights. The only good thing about this shield attachment is that it ranks second for increasing the runic stat, and also second for reducing cooldown time among all shield attachments. Number 10, Rond of Purification. With Rond of Purification, you can remove any elemental effect from yourself, including poison, fire, ice, and bifrost, and transfer it to the enemy. All you need to do is double tap the shield button. Personally, I think there are much easier ways to remove elemental effects from yourself. We already talked about this in our top 10 tips video for this game. For example, you can briefly enter rage mode to clear all elemental effects, then exit rage after a few seconds. Because of these easier alternatives, using Rond of Purification doesn't feel very smart or necessary. That's why most players won't choose this Rond. The only time this Rond really makes sense is if you're a new player and other methods are hard for you to use. One more good thing about this shield attachment is that when equipped, it gives the highest strength bonus among all shield attachments, which is definitely a positive point. Number 9, Rond of Fortification. This shield attachment allows you to hold L1 for a few seconds to charge it. The next time you block, or when you double tap L1 for a shield attack, it triggers an explosion that stuns enemies. The reason this Rond is not very appealing to me is that it forces you to play in a defensive way. You have to give up a lot of the aggressive playstyle you could have during combat. Also, after the explosion, the amount of stun applied to enemies is very low and not impressive at all. Of course, this is just my opinion. You might actually enjoy a defensive playstyle. That said, this Rond has the highest defense stat among all Ronds in the game, which gives it a special place. One more important thing to know, if you take a hit while charging this Rond, the charge is reset. You'll have to start holding the button again to fully charge its ability. Number 8, Rond of Restoration. Rond of Restoration boosts defense and vitality and comes with the Restoring Shield perk. This perk gives Kratos a gift of defense and allows his shield strikes to create health bursts whenever he takes damage. The lower your health is, the higher the chance for this perk to activate. This Rond is most useful when you are at the very end of your health bar and you're struggling to survive with just a little more health. Also, among all the Ronds in the game, this one gives the highest increase to your maximum health, which is not a bad thing at all. That said, even with all these benefits, I still believe there are better Ronds on this list. I personally prefer using those, and I recommend you watch the video until the end to fully understand my point, then decide which Rond you want to use in your shield slot. Number 7. Rond of Aggravation. When you read this Rond's description, it sounds like a great idea, but it stays only an idea and doesn't go much further. After every successful parry, this Rond gives you a chance to gain some rage. The problem is that the amount of rage you get is very small and not really helpful. In my weapon ranking video, when we talked about fists, I mentioned that you can gain a lot of rage just by using punches and kicks, and fully fill your rage bar that way. For me personally, gaining rage through fists is much faster and more practical than using this Rond and wasting a shield slot just for rage. Still, if that small amount of rage feels useful to you, then you can go ahead and use it. Number 6. Rond of the Nine Realms. This Rond gives you a very small chance to slow down time for a very short duration after every successful parry. So why did I place it at number 6 and not higher? The first reason is that this perk only activates when you are surrounded by multiple enemies. In one-on-one fights like boss battles, it almost never activates and basically becomes useless. My second reason is that the slow motion effect is extremely short. It ends so fast that you barely have time to land a second hit after your first attack. Because of that, this time slow is not made for aggressive plays. It's more of a defensive tool that gives you a small breathing moment when you're surrounded, letting you dodge, roll away, and reposition to turn the fight in your favor. In the end, you need to decide based on your own playstyle whether this Rond works for you or not. And now, we finally reached the top 5 of today's list, the Ronds I personally enjoy much more than the previous ones and really want to show you. We start with number 5, Rond of Disruption. This Rond activates when you successfully counter a blue ring attack with a double tap block. After that, an aura forms around you, creating a storm of a random element that damages nearby enemies. This elemental storm buys you a lot of time. You can attack enemies while it's active, or if you're surrounded or in a bad situation, you can use it to turn things around and force enemies to switch from offense to defense. Not only does this elemental effect give you breathing room, it also deals damage on its own and reduces enemy health. The elemental storms are completely random and you have no control over which element you get. These storms are especially great for dealing with low health enemies like nightmares, since they cover the area around you very well. On the downside, this Rond requires enemies to use blue ring attacks in order to activate, which means you can't trigger it whenever you want. Number 4, Rond of Expedition. When you have a shield like the Dauntless Shield, parrying enemy attacks shouldn't be too hard. Now imagine if every successful parry also reduces the cooldown of your runic attacks, letting you use them more often. That's exactly what Rond of Expedition does. Personally, with my playstyle, I parry a lot. Thanks to this Rond, I can recharge my runic attacks faster and use them multiple times against enemies. Most powerful runic attacks take a long time to recharge, and this is where Rond of Expedition shows its real value, making those attacks ready much quicker. On top of that, among all Ronds, this one gives the highest cooldown reduction, which is a very attractive bonus. Number 3, Rond of Obliteration. Before I talk about its benefits, I have to mention the hardest part, getting it. To obtain this Rond, you need to defeat the toughest bosses in the game, the Valkyrie Queens, after the endgame, and once you do, the reward is absolutely worth it. Here's how it works. By holding your shield for a short period, you charge it, then you can launch shards at enemies, just like the Valkyries do. These shards track enemies and are excellent for taking down aerial targets. If you're using shields like the Stonewall Shield, which require you to always stay in a defensive stance, I recommend pairing it with this Rond. While holding the shield in defense, you'll still be charging the Rond and preparing powerful attacks. Number 2. Rond of Absorption. Remember everything I said about Rond of Expedition? This Rond works in the same way, by successfully parrying, but instead of reducing runic cooldown, every successful parry fills your weapon's skill gauge like Permafrost, Immolation, and Maelstrom. I don't need to explain more because even the newest players know how powerful your weapon becomes once the skill gauge is full. This Rond allows you to charge your skill gauge faster with successful parries, making your weapon many times stronger. Personally, I think this is one of the best Ronds in the game, and using it is a smart choice. It also provides the highest runic bonus among all Ronds, boosting your runic attacks, damage, and effectiveness. The only downside is that if you're not good at parrying, its value decreases a bit. But if, like me, you love parrying enemy attacks, this Rond is a must-have, and the rewards for successful parries are extremely satisfying. Number 1. Rond of Deflection. Parrying has always been one of the hardest but most rewarding mechanics in video games. In gaming terms, parrying happens when you use your shield just before an enemy attack. If you use it too early or too late, the parry won't work. This is where Rond of Deflection comes in. It increases your parry timing window significantly, making parrying much easier and giving you greater control over combat. For example, the Spartan shield is very powerful and deals huge damage after a successful parry, but many players avoid it because parrying with it is difficult. Rond of Deflection solves this problem, making the Spartan shield a much more attractive option. This Rond works with all shields and even the Blade of Olympus, making parrying with them much easier. Even new players can parry like pros with it. That wraps up today's ranking, which I think few YouTube channels have covered in detail. I hope you enjoyed the video and support us for more content with your likes and comments.